In this video, we're going to be talking about the first practice session in Qatar. The cars were absolutely flying out there. It took me by surprise how much grip they had. So if you're interested in what my thoughts are, definitely keep watching. Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're going to talk about the Qatar first practice session. And like I said, the cars were absolutely flying. We cut to Max about 5 minutes into the session when he was top. And I could just see like instantly the amount of grip that that car had was phenomenal. About halfway through the session, we beat last year's pole time of a 23. And then the guys like Leclerc and Norris and all those top guys went on to do 21s, or even Leclerc, I think, just in the 21s. But the grip was absolutely phenomenal. So a couple of reasons why I think why this was happening. The track temperature or ambient temperature, probably the main one. And that's got impacts in two directions. Number one, it cools the tires down, so it just gives you more grip for the same compound of tire. Last year we were running in 38 to 40 degrees, so now that we're in the 20s or low 20s, I believe it is, or maybe even 19, that just gives more grip to the tire, gives them more opportunity to just find their sweet spot. And number two, with that cooler air comes a denser air, and that can work the aerodynamics harder as well. You got to remember that both the aerodynamic set and the engine like cooler air because it's denser, and so they work better. So when it was 38 degrees, the air's a little bit thinner, and the downforce is not as active, doesn't work as hard, and so they can cut through with more straight line speed. But this track really speaks to having downforce. So I think the cooler conditions are just giving a significant amount of grip to the cars. So it was interesting to see that, and I thought I'd call that out straight off the bat. Let's bring up the track map now, and I want to call out a few different things that I saw from a few different drivers. So let's take a look at that now. All right, hopefully you can see that on the screen in front of you. So we've got the Qatar track map here. One of the first things that I saw was the dramas that everyone was having through the double apex of turns 4 and 5. Now, we spoke about this yesterday in the live stream, and we said that in the middle of turns 4 and 5, that's when you're going to work out the car's balance front to rear. Is it in a harmony, or is there understeer, or is there oversteer? And then we saw a lot of people running into trouble there and on the exit of 5 as well. So it was just interesting to see how the drivers navigated that. Now, I wasn't seeing as many drivers use this entry curb here, which I thought more drivers would be. I mean, it's available to you. There's plenty of width on the entry. The cars has got so much downforce like we spoke about. You could definitely turn in from this entry curb. I think Max was, but he was probably one of the only ones that was doing it. I can't remember, that maybe Piastri was doing it, but I didn't see many people taking advantage of that situation. Another thing I saw Max do just on the entry here was change the diff mid. And what that means is he's going for a different differential setup in the middle of this corner. And mid, I take it to mean when you're off brakes and off throttle. So I think entry will be when you're on the brakes. Diff mid will be when you're off brakes and off throttle. And diff exit is going to be when you're on throttle driving through turn 5. So he's just looking for rotation at the period in the middle of this corner where he's not doing anything. He's just waiting for the car to turn. And so, like I say, a bit of understeer. Piastri ran wide here as well. I didn't get to see much of the lines that we spoke about in the live stream in turn 7. A bit of Piastri taking a short corner. Max not as short as what I thought he would do. So I feel like he connected well with the apex and stayed there for a long time. Maybe we'll check it out when we have a look at the telemetry and see if we can see any differences or observe anything there with his technique. But from the external cameras, I couldn't see much going on there other than Piastri doing a short corner through turn 7. And a lot of the drivers were also using the entry space available here into turn 10. So I saw a lot of them do it. I saw Lando do it, Charles do it. Lewis I didn't get a good shot of, but I suspect he would have been slightly inside. But we did see Lando run into troubles here in the mid to exit phase. So again, that's something that you could clean up with your exit differential. And it's just important to open up the steering here and let the car breathe, sort of head towards this turn 11 dot here. If you can just come through and open the steering, that gives you a lot more traction potential. You remember, you're turning and accelerating through a long corner of increasing radius like turn 10. So you want to make sure that the minimum speed is high, downforce is active, and the steering wheel is as straight as possible. And then you play with all your traction tools like your on-throttle diff, your throttle mapping, short shifting if you want, gentle throttle introduction, of course, and opening the steering. Those are the sort of things those are the sort of tools that you can use to navigate your way through turn 10 and get a good run through this crucial part of the racetrack. One thing I wanted to call out here that Alex Albon was doing and no one else was doing was just when he came through turn 15 here, heading down into turn 16, he was one of the only drivers I saw just let the car breathe for a second and go straight before putting the load in and switching it and bringing it across to the entry to turn 16. So a lot of the drivers would exit 15 here and then immediately diagonal. And I feel like you haven't given the car an opportunity to accelerate in that crucial phase when you're on the exit. So if you watch Alex and you keep an eye on him through this weekend, the way he opens the steering on the exit here and just lets the car breathe was beautiful to watch. So I thought I'd call that out as well. Let's take a look at the results, the run plans, and the top speeds together now. Alrighty, hopefully you can see that on the screen in front of you. So yes, we had only Leclerc crack the 1:21. So the Ferrari's quick, the McLarens are quick, and Mercedes are struggling. So mate, if anyone could understand these cars, it's flat, it's stiff, it's everything that George Russell said that this car should be doing and should perform well in. And there you go, 1.2 seconds down in the first practice session. Probably the biggest call out for me is Max. Look at him down there in P11. He came out with a lot of confidence. Like I said, we saw him flying straight away, but then, he was top, George was top, and then I think Lando was top and they were fighting. But interesting to see him get done there in the final stages of the first practice session. So if he's there and Checo Perez in 18, like that's not a good car around here for whatever reason. I can't begin to explain to you what that reason might be at this stage of the weekend. Interesting to have a look at the run plans as well. So Leclerc, he's done 10 laps on the hard, another 20. Is that a 20 lap stint? Jesus, another 20 lap stint here for Sainz. So Ferrari doing a lot of work on the hard compound tire that's not reflected by McLaren, not reflected by Verstappen in the Red Bull, not reflected by Mercedes either. So they haven't done much work on the medium compound tire, therefore. They jump straight over from the hards to the softs. Maybe they want to do a bit of work on that medium tire as well. Or for whatever reason, that's at least it's an interesting call out. I'm not sure why they've favored the hard compound tire. So we spoke in the live stream about it being potentially a two-stop, medium hard, or medium hard. So look, it's good that they got that data in, but I don't know. Why wouldn't you get, say, Leclerc to do 20 on the hard and then Sainz to do 20 on the medium and then just go from there and see what happens there? I don't know why you would put all your eggs in that basket. So look, I'm going through this live right now with you guys. So this is my first look at it. So that's one of the first things that I see. Piastri obviously ran wide on his flying lap, so there's a bit more pace there. Let's have a look at the fastest sectors. So we got sector 1 belonging to McLaren. Sector 2 belonging to Bottas. That's right. Just towards the end of the session there, he started to go quick in sector 2 and by some margin as well, guys. Like at 27.6. Like if you look at McLaren's middle sectors, there's the best part of 0.3 there. That 2.5 at least, that the Bottas is quicker than the McLarens. And then you got the best sector 3, which is Leclerc. So that's those fast, high-speed right-handers that almost that triple apex towards the end of the lap. And they're pretty close in the final and first sector. So I see like the middle sector is where a lot of the separation and opportunity is. And that's the sector with the long corner of constant radius and increasing radius as well. So that's where all the long corners are, testing front grip and traction as well. So Colapinto, obviously a bad session as well. I think we're going to have to call him out and have a look at some telemetry from Franco as well. What can I say leading into this weekend? We've been saying he needs to be focused on just the results and the lap time. He's been mucking around with photographers, taking teddy bears around the track. He's got a new helmet designed for this weekend. So it looks great, Franco, but mate, put your head down and do some work. Alex has shown where that car is capable of being. So I can't help but feel, and look, this is all of my, every time I talk about Franco, it is not a criticism to Franco. It's a criticism of his team, like the mature professionals around Franco to not get the right people in and help him, because he's a 20-year-old young man, as near as makes no difference. So like, you know, when we were 20, we were all didn't know what we know now as well, you know? So he needs more support, better guidance, people around him that actually care about his performance. So it's no surprise is what I'm saying that we see him down there. Let's take a look at the top speeds together and see if we can see anything interesting there. So just before we do that, we should have a look where the speed trap is, because it's such a high speed track and it is down the pitch straight. Okay. All right. These are the top speeds. Now, before we read into these, I just want to highlight it's probably not that important on this track. It's all about that 250 kilometer, like how the car works in that circa 250 kilometer range, that medium to high speed downforce range. It's not really like, as you can see, right? Leclerc, Norris, Sainz, Piastri, all these guys are in the second half. Albon had a good session. All these guys are in the second half of the speed trap. Yet these are the ones cleaning up the lap times, right? Verstappen doesn't have as much lap time. Mercedes is struggling. Perez is struggling. So these guys potentially want to think about putting a few more clicks of downforce on the car, which they can afford to do. And they'll probably be happy to see this actually. Verstappen will be like, yeah, for sure. I'll trade 5 kilometers here and make that 315, put me here and I'll get a little bit more grip through the corners. So I'm sure that's the sort of thing that I'll be looking for, whether they make those changes or not into the qualifying session. Okay, so let's take a look at some telemetry. So I'm keen to see what's going on with the Ferraris and the McLarens, like where are Ferrari strong, where are McLaren strong? So the difference between Leclerc and Norris. I want to see where Red Bull is struggling as well. So we'll stack a Red Bull Verstappen up against Leclerc as well. And then, of course, we'll have a look at Franco and see what's going on, why he's losing time to his teammate Alex Albon and where he can find that time going into qualifying. All right, hopefully you can see that on the screen in front of you. So I've picked Leclerc's best lap down here and one of Norris's best laps as well. And track dominance, let's have a quick look at that. I see a lot of red in the backhand sector here. And I see it on the entry into the double apex, entry into the hairpin, entry into the constant radius, and entry as well. So it seems to me like the car's got a lot more front grip, if that makes sense. Let's have a look at the delta and see where this starts running away. And pretty much it was 2/10 here in the final sector, and then they got smacked another 2/10. So if you look at the speed trace, have a look at the amount of minimum mid-corner speed that Charles Leclerc can carry. 270 versus 255. That's an absolute smashing. So that's through the right-hander of turn 14, I believe is the number. And again, I just want to see the throttle work that's getting done through this section. I can only presume it's shallower lifts from Charles Leclerc. Exactly. So this one's flat when Lando's got a lift. And so this is so interesting. Like, is this a confidence thing now? Or is this the car? Like, I think it's a bit of both, to be quite honest with you. I think Leclerc is just on it. This is a very shallow lift, again, into the next right-hander, and a bigger lift from Norris, and again, another big lift from Norris. You can see Leclerc keeping the RPM high. He's got the speed higher. This is where the damage is being done. And it's not available to me, but well, it is available actually, but they're not changing gears. So I thought they might be using maybe a downshift instead of doing a big lift for Lando. He could maybe do a lift like Charles, but a downshift. But no, I mean, Leclerc's got it pinned here, and this is such a small lift that they're not even worth downshift. So there you go, guys. That's a big insight. That's the first insight, is that through the high-speed corners, Leclerc has bravery and courage to match the grip of the Ferrari as well. That's what I think I'm seeing here. So I'd be curious to see if this is a McLaren-specific thing, or if this is, I mean, while we're at it, why don't we just bring up Piastri and see if he's struggling with the same place as compared to Ferrari. So let's have a look and zoom out. Again, we've got a lot of red track dominance around the back end. We do see a bit of separation here. This is where he made the mistake. So if I just put that there, that's on the exit of turn 5 heading into the hairpin. So he made the mistake there. He lost most of the time there. He's not losing as much here. So what I thought was true in terms of, the lift from Norris was too big in places. So yeah, where Leclerc kept it flat, it looks like Oscar's also keeping it flat. Is that right? Give me a sec. Yep. So I'm only seeing the lift here in the same places that Leclerc's lifting. So Oscar's actually taken one of these corners flat here, I believe. Let me find out which one that is. Is that this one here, is it? Yeah, that's fine. It must be that one. Yeah, it's that one there. So that's flat. So there you go. Norris is lifting in one of the corners where he doesn't need to be lifting. Let's jump over and have a look at Verstappen versus Leclerc and see where the Red Bull is losing the lap time. And if you have a look, the Delta does run away a little bit in the final sector, but just look at the minimum speeds, guys. You see this blue minimum speed constantly underneath the red minimum speed. That just means the Red Bull doesn't have the mechanical grip that the Ferrari has in terms of the front end. So like we said in the live stream, we said Max is going to have potentially run out of front tires in this race. Well, we see remnants of it already. Like the car just won't turn into turn 1. This looks like turn 2. Look at the minimum speeds in the double apex right-hander of turn 4 and turn 5. Not too bad in the hairpin, but then the increasing radius, the minimum speed again. And look at the last corner. That's probably the biggest one. That's where the Delta takes another jump. So Max is just not getting the front end in. So this is the biggest difference, where Leclerc's minimum speed in the final corner 176 and Max 160, 16 kilometers. That's a big difference. And look, I see that trend across the whole thing. So yeah, we do see some speed separation in the last part. Let's have a look at Max's throttle work in the last part. Yeah, he's got some similar to Lando. He's lifting here where Leclerc can keep it flat. And he's got some bigger lifts here in the back end as well. But I think in addition to that, the car just won't go into the corners. So I think the Red Bull's struggling with understeer, as we can see already. Let's take a look at Colapinto Albon and see if we can work out what's going on in their best laps. So we've got the track dominance here. Anywhere where it's light blue is going to be in Albon's favor. Anywhere where it's white is going to be in Colapinto's favor. You see corners like here, the long corner of constant radius, Alex faster in and faster out, potentially executing a short corner there. We see here, same thing, faster in and faster out. And we just see, like, for some reason, Colapinto fast at the apexes. So that's quite interesting before we even dive into the data itself. But he's losing a lot of time at turn 1, where it is without doubt blue in favor of Alex Albon. So again, the minimum speeds here. I just want to double click on what's happening in the long corner of constant radius, because that's always a telling sign for a driver. So why don't we just highlight that section and see what's going on? So where are we exactly? Okay, so we're driving into the long corner of constant radius. And what we see is Alex in blue. Okay, so yes, we're right. Alex is executing the short corner technique. So you can see just by the fact that he's done the corner earlier, if that makes sense. So this minimum speed is earlier and before Franco's minimum speed. So that means he's just focusing on getting the rotation done here and then driving through the exit of the corner. And that's why you see like massive speed difference. He's probably earliest and first on throttle, exactly what you see here. And so that's how he's finding time here. But this is really strange. Have a look at this. In a fully loaded part of the track that's routinely flat, Franco's got a lift here in white. He's showing him getting out of the throttle. Yeah, very strange. So I'm not sure what's going on. We'll have to check his confidence at the back end of the circuit as well and see what's going on in terms of the throttle work. So an earlier lift for Franco, a bigger lift for Franco is what we see here. So just generally, he's really not confident. So there you go. At least his helmet looks good. All right, I'm a little bit tired. Quick word in Spanish, and then we are going to wrap up. Hola a todos. Ojalá que estés bien. Mira, yo creo que Franco no tiene problema técnica. Tiene problema con las personas en su equipo personal. Como siempre estoy diciendo las mismas cosas, porque con el equipo personal tienes el jefe o enseñador o jefe de administración o algo así. Franco es muy joven y necesita mantener el foco en manejar. Manejar es y solo manejar. No firmar banderas, no tomar fotitos. No tiene un casco nuevo este fin de semana con estrellas, 3 estrellas por Copa Mundial de Argentina. No les importa. Es una falta de energía. Es como una perdido de energía en cosas que que no te sirve, en serio. Necesitas mantener el foco, pensar siempre en el coche y manejando. Y creo que Franco no tiene eso. No tiene esto en ese momento. Entonces siempre estoy diciendo las mismas cosas en serio. Y Franco no va a mejorar hasta que sus tiempos de vueltas están en prioridad. O tiene sus prioridades en orden. Entonces, si me entiendes, lo siento, mi español es muy, muy mal. Pero es una cosa de prioridades, concentración, dirección, focus y haciendo su trabajo como un profesional, en serio. Entonces, hay nada más para decir. Ojalá que pueda encontrar esa cosa inmediatamente y empezar trabajando muy duro en manejar el coche. Gracias por escucharme, gracias por confiar en mí. Mándame una pregunta o comenta debajo, suscríbete a este canal y hablamos mañana. That's all for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give the video a thumbs up, leave me a comment or a message or a question in the comment section of the video, and definitely subscribe to this channel so you can keep up to date with what is happening over the weekend moving forward. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one.